Hey guys, welcome to Chef Grace's place. So today we have the great nephew of Pat's Kings of Steaks. So if you don't know what that is the original Philly cheesesteak. They invented the cheesesteak. So this is going to be a pretty cool episode. I know Frank from culinary school, and he's a great guy. Normally, when you think of people that inherit the family business, you don't think of people that are this nice and great and actually deserve it. So you think of, former presidents. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. And yeah, all the questions. But first, if you could just kind of go over the history of Pat's, because I'm sure a lot of the viewers don't know it.
Sure. So back in 1930, my great uncle, my father's older brother, so my great uncle, my grandfather's older brother, was selling hot dogs in what is the Italian market in Philadelphia. So if you've ever seen the original Rocky movie, where the scene takes place where he's running down the street and someone throws him an orange, that is the world famous Philadelphia Italian market, which is actually the oldest continuously running open air market in the country. So he was selling hot dogs at the hot dog stand because hot dogs were the rage in 1930s. And one day he got tired of eating hot dogs for lunch. So he sent my grandfather, who was like 11 or 12 years old at the time, to the butcher who was down the street for any, cuttings or trimmings that he had, and took it back to his hot dog grill. He cooked it up on the grill, and the only condiments he had at the time were onions. So he had a loaf of Italian bread, and he put the cooked steak with the onions on a roll. And a cab driver who ate hot dogs every day saw the sandwich and said, "Wow, looks great. Make me one." So Pat said, "I only have enough money to make one for myself, but I'll give you half of mine since you eat hot dogs every day." Breaks the sandwich in half, gives it to the cab driver. Cab driver said, "This is amazing. Stop selling hot dogs and start selling these." And then that was the invention of the Philly steak sandwich in 1930. And then years after he moved, well, not years after, basically that winter, he moved into the location where the store is now. And one of our employees got tired of eating sandwiches with and without onions and wanted something different for himself and added some cheese to it. And there's some big discrepancy over which cheese it was. Definitely was not Cheese Whiz, because that wasn't invented until like 1956, 1957.
So it had to be was that just the year after it opened, or how many years after?
It was in the late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
That he started putting it. So it was probably most likely it was provolone cheese at the time.
That's
because all the Italians, they really weren't eating they were still a lot of the Italians that were in the neighborhood were just fresh over from Italy in the early 1900s. So they were probably having provolone cheese on it. So probably originally sharp provolone, but then my Uncle Pat opened up several stores around the city, and Pat's, the original place, was too busy to do provolone all the time like that. So in 1956, my dad found Kraft Cheese Whiz and started putting Cheese Whiz on the sandwiches. But at the other stores, we used provolone and American and Cheese Whiz. And then that's how the Cheese Whiz became so darn popular. It became our signature sandwich.
And Cheese Whiz is
Cheese Whiz is the glue that holds Philadelphia together. So Cheese Whiz, the original formula the original formula has lots of cheese in it, lots of interesting ingredients, as you know, as a chef. What you think might taste like one thing actually tastes like something else when it's mixed in proper proportions. Like the original formulation of cheese was actually had lots of anchovies in it for the salt factor. But now it's evolved over the years to become less shelf stable. Like before, when it came in number 10 cans, there was actually no expiration date on it. But now it comes in pouches, and there's an expiration date on it. So the recipe's changed over the years.
But also, I think legally now everything has to have an expiration date on it, even if it
Yeah.
doesn't expire. So,
Yeah, it was that stuff would have been here like long after like the nuclear holocaust or something like that. You know what I mean?
so what was it like? Like, so how did it go from? Because that was your uncle. So did he just not have any kids, and then it went to
So
yours?
no, he had a son, Herb, and so it was my father, my grandfather, and a couple of one of my grandfather's brothers who ran the businesses. But Pat was the sole owner of the business. And then they had, because I wasn't born yet, they had several stores in the Philadelphia area. And then Pat decided to, Pat made the majority of his money, parlaying the money he made at the restaurant by buying real estate.
Oh, okay.
So he owned like a lot of the ground in Northeast Philadelphia. If anybody's familiar where Nabisco is, up in Philadelphia, off of Byberry Road near the post office, he owned all that property over there. So he would buy property, sell it, make money, and then open up more stores. And so in the mid '60s, he decided to move to Los Angeles and open a Pat's out in the Fairfax area.
Okay.
Not exactly sure where it was, but at that time, my one of his brothers passed away. My grandfather and dad and Herb were still running the businesses in Philadelphia. So in the mid '60s, my grandfather and father bought the original store from Pat, and his son Herb continued to run the place on 33rd and Ridge Avenue, and there was a place on 2nd and Roosevelt Boulevard. So the family kind of split. Excuse me. And then he tried to franchise a couple times, and it didn't work out. But we still retained the original store. And then, unfortunately, cousin Herb passed away a couple years ago, and we have all the rights to the franchising, which I haven't done anything with yet.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Starbucks model, they used to franchise, and it just seems more like you can get a more consistent branding if you just own all of it. It seems like it makes more sense than to franchise out and license out. And it seems
Yeah,
expensive.
like a great model for that is In-N-Out Burger. They're all family owned, and there's like over 155 some odd units to In-N-Out Burger, and they're company owned. Yeah, but there's some other people in Philadelphia who are franchising, and I think for them, I can only speak from what I see. And all us cheesesteak guys in Philadelphia, despite what people think, we're all friends. As a matter of fact, two of them live in the same
Are
building
you
with me
sure
here.
you want? Are you sure you want to put that on the podcast? We got to keep the feed going.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Tony Luke Jr. lives. We live in the same building, and only up till maybe like last year, Gino from my competitor right across the street lived in the building as well. Actually, when I had a life change, I got divorced, and I moved back to Philadelphia from New Jersey. Those two guys encouraged me to move into their building here, where I am now. So we're all friends, all the cheesesteak guys, despite
Guys
what people think.
together.
We're all friends. It's like the cheesesteak mafia.
It's like you're all friends, but you like agree to disagree on who has the best cheesesteak.
Well, I mean, listen, I mean, I have my favorite cheesesteaks in Philadelphia besides my own too. And I don't make any bones about it. The realistic first cheesesteak that I ever had in Philadelphia that wasn't mine was at a dear friend of mine, Steve the Prince of Steaks. And I think his cheesesteak
Oh,
replicates our sandwich originally more so than anybody else's.
so growing up, did you always know you were going to take over Pat, or?
Well, that's that's a little bit of a hard story. Here we go. So, it was in the family, and my grandfather had retired, and so I graduated from high school in 1982. So I'll be 57 in January. So I cooked an alumni dinner at my school when I was a junior, and one of the people who sat on the board was from CIA, and he said, "Listen, you're coming to CIA. We want you there, up in Hyde Park." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's all well and good, but I've been taking French since 6th grade. I'm going to Le Cordon Bleu." So when I graduated in 1982, I had my apartment ready, and I was going to Le Cordon Bleu. And we had a manager who was working for us for many years who decided to either want to become a partner in the business or leave. And he decided to leave. So I said to my dad, "Listen, I'm going to France for 5 years in September. So I'll stay till September. and then I'm leaving. And the windup was I actually stayed. So I took over the business.
Okay.
So when you met me when I was like 47, a culinary school, that was like a bucket list kind of thing where, you know, I was that old guy that came into class with all you young whippersnappers.
But it was
And George,
probably like good. It was great to have you around because otherwise it would just been a bunch of young whippersnappers that had no experience and no idea
yeah,
what they
like,
were doing.
yeah, but I always had a passion for cooking, which I probably got from my mother. And, you know, coming home from school at that young age, Julia Child was on TV in the afternoons, as was Graham Keir, the Galloping Gourmet. So I always loved to cook. But in the meantime, before I got to culinary school, I mean, I did several other business things, but I just did for fun. Like I started a baking business out of my house when I was just staging at a friend of mine's restaurant. And he's like, "Do you know how to bake?" And next thing I know, I went from baking for him to like 7 restaurants around the area out of my little caloric oven in my house in New Jersey. It was like am I and then running a business at the same time. Like, what am I, insane? But it was fun.
What part of New Jersey were you living in New Jersey?
I was living in Marlton, New Jersey, which is it's where the 3 corners come together: Marlton, Cherry Hill, and Medford.
Oh, the H Mart is by there, right?
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah.
I used to go with Young all the time to the H Mart.
Yeah.
Because there was a really good Korean barbecue place over there too.
Yeah, there is a really good Korean. There's some really good food out there, but I'm back in Philly now. We have so many amazing restaurants here. Well, at least we did before COVID.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I definitely want to talk to you about that. But
yeah, there's a lot to talk on that. I mean,
yeah, there's lots to talk about on that. But I had a couple more questions about Pat's.
Okay.
But I guess Pat's is also great because it's pretty much all takeout. Like,
so how it started was the guy who owned the building, Joe Butch, said to my Uncle Pat, "Come over here and take over the restaurant on the 2nd floor." So the restaurant on the 2nd floor fed the people in the bar where we actually serve the steaks from now, and in the back was a produce stand. Pat said, "I don't have any money to rent the place. You know, I'm working at the sled factory at night, and my brother's running a forklift at the Navy base." So he said, "Well, when you start making money, then you can pay me." So Pat takes over the restaurant and then takes over the bar, and more people actually came into the bar to eat than they did to drink, believe it or not. So the bartender got really angry and said, "Listen, if he literally cut a hole in the wall and said, if you're eating, go outside. If you're drinking, stay inside." And that's how we started serving the food outside.
wow, that's really cool.
So was that a necessity?
And once you went to culinary school, did you learn anything that you were like, oh, this would make Pat's better, and like apply it to that? Or?
So through the years, I did. I found a lot of practical applications for what I learned in culinary school. But at the time, like, I had been running the business since I was 18 years old, and at 47, I already knew cost control. I already knew like management. I already knew how to settle grievances. So I figured all that stuff out, like basically on the job training. But it was kind of like, it was narrow. Like my business scope was narrow because I knew how to run that model. I mean, I could have applied that to other models and got away with it for a while, but I wouldn't have known how to run a bar, for instance, because I didn't have that experience. I could fake it for a little bit and then I'd have to figure it out. Yeah. So that I kind of learned just like on the job, all the cost control stuff. That's how I got out of some of those classes, was like, this is what I do for a living. I do cost control and do ordering and I do all that. So I was good with that. But the practical application, like as for cooking, no, I already knew that because throughout the years before culinary school, I was taking private classes with George Perrier from Le Bec Fen. I mean, that was amazing, taking private classes with George. And, I would maybe sneak up to New York and do something at the French Culinary Institute, take a weekend class or something like that. Baking was all self-taught. So it was this, I had signed up to do a class in Bath, England, to do a bread class, but that didn't pan out for me. I didn't get to go there. My daughter was graduating from high school and going to college that week, so I needed to move her in. So I really couldn't be in Bath moving her in at the same time.
Yeah.
So, but like you, I do bake all my own bread. I don't need any. It's like crazy. Like, I own a restaurant that serves like fast food, and is it the healthiest food? Probably not. But it's basically the only thing I eat frozen is the meat from the store and the ice cream that I make, or Haagen-Dazs. You know what I mean? I don't need anything else frozen. I make everything.
Yeah. I mean, but also even when it comes to freezing stuff, I think that's probably one of the best ways to preserve.
Oh, no, undoubtedly. Like, say, for instance, like for my wife, we make her smoothies every morning. I mean, frozen berries and stuff like that are actually picked at and some of the frozen vegetables are picked at their absolute peak and processed that same day. So the product that you're getting today, as opposed to when I was a kid, is much, much better.
And I also eat, like, me and Noel just made a salsa video. I got to finish editing it for today.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking about like canned tomatoes, for instance. They're picked riper than tomatoes they have to ship across the country to go into the grocery store. So they actually taste better than something you get at the grocery store. Unless you're growing it yourself, then that's like different. But
Yeah, like there's a product that I can never pronounce the product right, and it stands a lot. It's from the California product that we use. I'm also a pizzaiola. I'm a certified pizzaiola. So I did that in California. That was great. So, and I have a brick oven in my backyard. I did that in February of 13, I think. I went out to Tony's Neapolitan, Tony Giarmani, who's the pizza champion of the world in San Francisco.
So pizza champion of the world?
Pizza action. He's the first American to win the Neapolitan pizza contest in Naples.
How many Americans have competed before in Naples?
Many, but he was the first one to win. But he and his crew wins all the time. They're amazing, and they do the pizza acrobatics, throwing the dough around and all that dance and stuff. He's absolutely amazing.
Now, there's been like a renaissance, I don't know, like a change in pizza lately, where people are starting to use like a sourdough starter in the crust.
I do use a sourdough. I have like, it depends on what I'm doing that day. So sometimes I like to use the conventional yeast, but I proof it for a day or two just to get it nice and robust, gives it more flavor. Or sometimes I use my sourdough, depending if it's really active, I use my sourdough. But I still do a 36 to 48 hour ferment on my pizza dough before I make it.
Okay. I think the best, I'm just so surprised that I was in San Francisco because, like I grew up in North New Jersey. So I was like 20 minutes from the city, but New York City, but also the town I grew up in was so Italian. We had like a pizza war like every year. And
which town were you in?
Nutley, New Jersey. It's mentioned in The Sopranos a couple times.
Okay.
So Nutley, and then the neighboring town Belleville. Once a year you could go to like, it depends. Sometimes it was in like a different high school or something, but all the pizzerias from the two towns, you'd pay like $5 and you'd all vote on which was the best pizzeria. And it for like almost 10 years straight, it went to this place called Ralph's, and then this place Michael's opened and like stole it. And it was right around when I think George W. Bush and Al Gore, they were doing all those recounts, and the same thing happened in the pizza war.
So I hope all those ballots were anonymous. They didn't look through and say, "Hey, Grace voted for Michael's. Let's go get her."
Let's go get her. But well, it was just great because then I actually think I voted for Bel Paese, but that was the third party vote.
I'll tell you this. Not to talk about Tony more, but he is like he's amazing. He's like the authority. He has a book out called The Pizza Bible. And also, like I can't not mention, can't not forget to mention, Philadelphia's own and one of my favorite people on the planet, Marc Vetri, who actually just came in. He came out with one too, his pizza book. He has
Huh?
a pizza book. He has one mastering pasta, mastering pizza, mastering bread just came out like last week.
Oh, wow.
And he's an amazing pizzaiola as well. He's local.
Yeah, he's great. I know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people we graduated with went on to work for him, actually.
Yeah. It was like him, Jose Garces, and Star.
And Steven
But
Star.
you were with Star, right?
Yeah. And then some, yeah, some, all the people I worked with were great, but his business practices were not desirable.
Evie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, you can be successful at one thing, but, need to work on some other things. Like there's a lot of things I need to work on.
Yeah. But I'm sure, swindling your employees out of their money isn't one of
Oh, no, it's not. I don't do that. That's probably my employees swindling me out of money. It's more like it, probably.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not good. But
we digressed. We were talking about canned tomatoes.
yeah.
So there are some great like canned product. Like I have an affinity for that California tomato that all the pizzerias use, the 7-Eleven, the ground, the Alta Cuccia. It's a whole fillet. It's beautiful. It's a very, it's perfect. The tomato's perfect every time. And when I'm home and I'm making sauce or something like that, I'll use like a Cento, the organic, which I find to be an amazing product as well.
Yeah. I usually use what's on sale, but I refuse to use Hunt's. I hate their tomatoes.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who would always make his sauces. He would come over and make his sauces with Hunt's because that's what his mother used. She was originally from Las Vegas, and I guess Vegas they were using on that side of the country. She was using a Hunt's product. I mean, the product was always good. It's just something about you used to a flavor. Like there was a tomato that I grew up with my mother using Pastane, which comes in a yellow can, which is sometimes so hard to find, but it's just such a distinct flavor. And I do see like when I would watch diners, drive-ins, and dives or whatever. That's a long story with that one. That story. Anyway, there's a lot of places up in Boston use that product. Pastine. It's a good tomato.
All right. So it's more like the deep. No, wrong city. Never mind.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like we should talk more about the COVID stuff.
Okay.
It's going to be like a big chunk. But before I wanted to ask you about Gold Belly because how do I like they ship cheesesteaks across the country? Is it gonna taste as good when it gets there?
So we did it. I was very skeptical in doing it, but my wife insisted that we look at it as with local delivery. I never wanted to do local delivery, and we did it at a time like a year before COVID hit, which was it worked out perfectly. So getting to Gold Belly. So a lot of R&D on it. I was trying to do some research and development years ago, how to come up with a product that would taste as authentic and as good as if you were there and like, took a ride home and heated it up the next day, because that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So I tried doing like the sous vide boil it bag methods where you were asking the consumer to put everything, heat everything up and then assemble the sandwich themselves. And that didn't work for me. So we came up with the idea that we would, for the American and provolone sandwiches, we would put the cheese on the bread, make the sandwiches at the store with or without onions. And then we would put them in our freezer and quick freeze them overnight. And then vacuum seal 4 to a bag. Just basically just to hold them together, not like, so we didn't need a HACCP plan with that because it wasn't like wet product. And with the heating instructions, and we packed them in a box, which has a foil foam liner with wet packs, and overnight them. And so for like 2 to 3 weeks, I was sending them all over to my friends all over the country in like hot conditions, cold conditions, you know, whatever possible. And we found that the product was working. So when you get the product, it leaves our building, it leaves our freezer at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, it's on your doorstep. So the box itself and the wet packs have a something like a 36 to 48 hour keep cold time. So it'll sustain the temperature for that long. So when you get it, the product's usually semi-thawed, but not completely thawed.
Yeah.
So you can just put it into the refrigerator. I would not refreeze it. I tell people not to refreeze the product. And then you just basically preheat your oven to 300 degrees. I tell everybody your oven varies, 10 to 12 minutes. Boom, it's done. It's just basically like if you were out in town one night and you went home and you got an extra sandwich and, you know, you heated it up the next day. It's the same thing. But for the Cheese Whiz application, we do the steaks, plain steaks with and without onions, and we pack the Cheese Whiz on the side. You can either do it on the stovetop or nuke it for a minute or two, or 10 seconds. If not, it's like lava. And just pour the Cheese Whiz on top of it. It's like napalm. It's like it burns you.
So,
and
so the bread is separate because the thing I was
no, it's all together.
How do you keep bread from getting fried?
Well, we don't make them so far in advance. We make them like the day before.
Oh,
so the bread's frozen.
You're freezing it so it never gets the chance to get into the bread.
Exactly. So it's a quick freeze on the bread and the whole sandwich.
Is
so
it, like
it doesn't have time to. And no, it's not a blast. Our freezer's like 22 degrees below zero, where we keep our meat and our fries.
Yeah.
And so we spread everything out, and it freezes. We cool it down according to the way that we're supposed to cool things down.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Once it's cool, then we freeze it. So there's no steam or humidity to make the bread start to like scale.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
And
so it's great. So when we were sending, shipping like Tuesdays and Thursdays on average, probably, 15, 20, maybe if it was a holiday, 100 orders of either a 4, 8, or 12 pack a week before COVID. Then when COVID hit and we started shipping, so that was probably like 300 sandwiches, 400 sandwiches per week at that time. Then when COVID hit, we were shipping out anywhere between 8 to 9,500 sandwiches a week.
What?
Yeah, we were doing we were doing 450 orders on a Tuesday and 450 orders on a Thursday, each either a 4, 8, or 12 pack. And a lot of people were going for the 8 packs. So 450 times 8, twice a week. It was insane. It was insane. So, and it kind of worked out well because at the same time, it was still, we were still in the springtime. So it wasn't in the summer swing. So I didn't have to keep as much product in the freezer, such as the meat or French fries, because the window was like 65% down because there was nobody on the streets.
Yeah.
And then we had the other unrest going on in Philadelphia, which a curfew was implemented. So there was no one on the streets. So we're still a 24-hour business. So I had people there from, 12 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning, doing nothing and getting paid for it. So, okay, now you're making steaks all night. So where before we were, they were standing around doing nothing, or when it was before COVID time, they were working. Now they're making, 2,500, 3,000 sandwiches a night for the orders to go out for Goldbelly. And it truly was our saving grace between that and the local delivery.
What, is there like a combo deal in the works? Because Goldbelly is great for that, but it's also great for like people like me who, especially with COVID now, maybe I'm not going to travel to Philadelphia and get to taste the original cheesesteak. And obviously the big draw is you get to decide for yourself whose is better, Pat's and Gino's. So is there going to be like a combo pack where I can decide?
Like I'm going to sound very hip, like a collab.
Like
no,
a collab?
we're not doing that. No collab. We're not doing that at this point. Tony Luke says he's on air. I don't know if Gino's is on air, but I know Tony Luke's is on air. My friend John from John's Roast Pork is on there. He's doing his roast pork. I encouraged him to do it because he was falling on hard times as well. Although he just got like voted like best cheesesteak in the world. Congratulations, John. You make 3 cheesesteaks a week. But so no collab with that, but we are getting a Philly pack together, which is going to include 4 cheesesteaks, tasty cakes, Goldenberg's peanut chews, and soft pretzels with mustard.
Ooh.
So you'll be able to, we're probably going to get that up and running within the next week or 2.
Which kind of tasty cake?
I think we're looking at like, everybody loves the butterscotch crimpets, right?
No.
And the everybody loves candy cakes. Everybody loves the chocolate cupcakes. I know, right? So I think we're gonna put like a variety of those in there. Maybe some chocolate cupcakes, crimpets, and some candy cakes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, candy cakes they do have peanut butter in them, but.
Do you have a nut allergy?
No, but I have a really bad shellfish allergy, so I'm always like wary of people with allergies because I know how it feels to go into anaphylactic shock, and it's not fun.
It's like I have the weirdest thing. Like I love fish. I eat fish, but like if I eat like too many blue crabs, Jersey coast, must be something in the water. Who knows? Medical waste. I get like banged up. I get like the crab shakes like so bad. So I'm definitely allergic.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to keep eating them until I die. Who cares? Whatever.
Well, you should, because that's how you have to like build a tolerance. You have to like desensitize yourself. But mine is so bad that like I'm gonna have to like go to a doctor and they're gonna have to like prick my skin like once a week with like a micro amount. But eventually.
Yeah, but it's crazy because I can eat the colossal crab in the can, the deep water crab. I can eat like a pound of that and it doesn't bother me. But if I eat like a fresh Jersey crab, that bothers me. It's weird.
It's all the
maybe it could be doing. Yeah, it could be all the medical waste in New Jersey in the water. Who knows? Whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. So
gotta love our coast.
So what are they? So Philadelphia has, when I was there, it was kind of like all the big names from New York City were like deciding that New York City was too expensive and they were like coming to Philly. And then also you had people that were from Philly that were opening restaurants, and it became like, a giant food hub. So since COVID, like what's happening? Like how many people are out of business? There's
so many people out of business. Restaurants are, we have our couple big guys in Philly who had multiple restaurants. Michael Solomonoff from Zahav restaurant, which won the James Beard Award. My wife and I went to Israel with him on a food tour, which was amazing.
That's
2 Mays ago. We were supposed to go this May, but it was canceled. So hopefully maybe things will slow down. We'll be able to go again in May. He had several, we were at his restaurant, his new place called Laser Wolf in Fishtown, where so many new restaurants are opening, like have opened and have closed too.
What kind of food is Laser Wolf?
So Laser Wolf is, I think it's a character from Fiddler on the Roof. I think he was the butcher or something. Don't quote me on that.
Right.
Just because I'm married to a Jewish girl doesn't mean I know everything about the.
So my maternal grandmother is Jewish, so technically I'm Jewish, because if your mother's mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. But
Mazel tov.
But Zahav means gold in Hebrew, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so he focuses on, I don't even know what to call the food. Hebrew? That's not Hebrew food. Jewish food?
It's a combination of Israeli, Yemen. It's all the influences from that area. And truly, to go to Zahav it's an experience. And if you go there and you do the tasting menu, which I highly, highly suggest, you must go early and get the lamb, because his lamb is brined, it's smoked, it's this and it's that. There's like 6 different preparations on it, and it's this sticky pomegranate lamb shoulder that is heavenly. Heavenly. It's just amazing. And he serves it with this rice that's it's so good.
It's a hot.
Everything is so good there. Zahav, it's amazing. It's
So
truly amazing. So yeah, so Laser Wolf is his like kind of more like a street food kind of place, more like a grill
okay,
where he has like roasted chicken
more
and his chicken
affordable.
wings.
Good food.
Yeah, his hummus is amazing. I mean, everything in there is. I mean, he has his brick ovens. He's making the pita. I mean, everything is delicious, and he's not the only one in town doing amazing food from that region either. Um, we were just at this other place called Suraya the other night, which is in Fishtown. As a matter of fact, right around the corner from Laser Wolf, and it's a religious experience. You go there, it's the food, is the flavors, is it's hard, it's just it's so good.
So, but
Just
they're doing like, how are they adapting to the COVID situation?
so you're allowed to have 25% inside, so they do a small amount inside, but they're fortunate they have a big space out back that they use for events. So, it's all social distance. They're taking your temperature when you go in, and you're doing everything you order and everything on your phone.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's Suraya, for instance, you're ordering everything on your phone and you're paying through your phone through that one particular table app. Whereas last night I went to one of my all-time favorites, which is the Saloon Restaurant, which has been here for forever. And that's in the heart of South Philadelphia. And their menu is on that app where you're still paying a check. But going into that place, it's like normally it was packed on a Monday night with the locals, and there's just a few tables,
Yeah,
because you can't have anybody inside. But other places, like for instance, Marc Vetri took over a place called it was a sausage place for years, called Fiorella Sausage, right in the Italian market. So we converted the butcher shop into like a counter. It's the best business plan ever. 6-burner stove, a fry baby on the counter. So it has like 2 salads, a little charcuterie, calamari, and like 6 different pastas and like 2 desserts. And everything's done right there in front of you with the bar. And there were like, so maybe like 15 at the bar, and maybe 4 or 6 two tops. But now you can't have anybody inside. So he moved his space outside where he has actually twice the amount of people. So in that respect, it worked well for him. What about winter? Well, today I'm looking in Philadelphia. It's like 78 degrees out. It's beautiful, but it's the beginning of November, and winter is right around the corner. Other places that are on Rittenhouse Square that had the outside dining, for instance, like Rouge and Devon and Park, they have the heaters, but when it's too cold, you can't be outside. And now that we're having another wave, people, there has to be some stimulus stuff going on, because the people that are suffering the most, other than everybody, are the people in our industry, the people, servers. I mean, the restaurant owners. I mean, most restaurants, the majority of the restaurants work probably with enough money for 2 weeks, unless you're forever there and you're a big establishment, big corporation, where you can weather the storm. But the small people, the mom and pop that have the little place in the corner that they saved everything and borrowed everything from their family and friends, they're falling by the wayside, because they still have to pay the rent. They still have to pay, all the insurances that go along with it, workman's compensation and all that stuff. I mean, those bills still come in.
Yeah.
Just because you're not using that stove, you still have to pay a service to keep the gas on. Yeah. And you still have to keep your refrigeration. And then it's just the supply chain. The people that are selling you the food, the people that are selling you the produce, they're not getting paid. So it's just a huge domino effect.
Yeah. And well, in regards to winter, so I was flying for the past for almost 5 years now, and I flew a lot to Scandinavia and Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. It's freezing over there.
They're not eating outside.
They are. They eat
Are they?
outside year
Well,
round.
that is true. Like in France too. Like when we were in France, and I've been to France a couple times since. I mean, everybody eats outside all year round, whether it's cold out or not. It's just part of it's a cultural thing.
But what I find, the thing I think is going to be the hardest if it has to keep that way is they have the infrastructure for it. So
Right.
in Scandinavia, particularly, one of the coolest things I think is the way they remove snow and keep things warm is the floor has heaters under it.
Hmm.
So then the heat rises, so it's not as cold. And then they also have those stand heaters in between
Yeah.
tables. And then on top of that, they give out blankets.
Yeah, we are so not we are here in America we are so not equipped for that. I
I
mean
know.
it's a whole different thing in Europe and in Scandinavia where like when you go to when you go to a restaurant in France, for instance, you go to a restaurant in Champagne and you have a 6 o'clock reservation. That's your table all night. It's not like the turning and burning it like we do here in the States.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that's your table all night. You're sitting there and you're going to enjoy everything. You're going to enjoy the whole theater, the whole experience of it. And here in the States, because it's our culture, we have to turn and burn to make those bills, to pay those bills, to pay the wages and everything else.
Yeah, that's rough. And I think people aren't gonna come out for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I do see a change, however. Um, with COVID, I think that there is more of a laid back when you do actually go to a restaurant, and you are maybe sitting inside. There's less of that hurriedness. So
Yeah.
you're kind of like for instance, when we were at Suraya the other night, we had a 6 o'clock reservation. Say, I mean, we didn't leave the table till 8:30. I mean, it was a nice paced dinner. They weren't, hurrying us out of there. It was more like, okay, just relax and enjoy yourself. And it did feel more European esque, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And I think, well, here in Florida, it's like the Wild West. It's not, there's
Yeah.
not many restrictions. And even like I started teaching culinary classes again this weekend and
Uh
pastry
huh.
at Sur La Table, and they're doing everything they possibly can to make it safe. But when you're eating something, you're gonna take your mask down. Like that's just gonna
Yeah.
happen.
It's going to
So
happen.
yeah, and at this point, it's just kind of like Florida in general. They don't care pretty much. Like, but I
Yeah.
think it's
Do you
less
know?
you. Sorry, but
No, you go.
I think
What you
a
have to
lot
say is
of
probably
it.
more important.
I was gonna say, I lost both of my jobs, so it's not that I would not go out. It's just I don't have the money.
Yeah, it's
And
hard.
I think when most of the people don't realize like how much of the economy is the restaurant industry. So if all
Yeah.
those people have lose their jobs, they don't, and the travel industry. So if all those people don't have any jobs, they're not making money. They can't spend it in the economy.
No, they can't. And you have to be, I mean, the people in our industry have to be a little more creative. Like for instance, like for us in particular, I through several collaborations that I've done with other with other chefs in Philadelphia, we've had them do their version of a cheesesteak at my place, and we would split the funds and put it into our foundations. Um, so, can I reinvent the cheesesteak? Yes, kind of for a short period of time. But what we need to do is reinvent how people. What we did was reinvent how people get the cheesesteak,
Yeah.
whether it be through DoorDash and through Goldbelly and stuff like that. For instance, I have a very dear friend of mine, Robert Amar, who was our fish guy. He's a dear friend, and he was in the fish business. He was working for a big company here in Philadelphia, and he branched out on his own, and he was doing for restaurants and for retail wholesale, and COVID hit, and it's like, okay, restaurants are all closed. Now what do I do? So he came up with this amazing model and he started a new business called Small World Seafood. And what he does with that is he has people an email list, which he started in the Fairmount section of Philadelphia. If that's for anybody who's listening, that's up where Eastern State Penitentiary is, one of the oldest prisons in the country. He's up in that section, and what he does, he has this amazing email list that he sends out to people. This is what's available this week. This week I have salmon and oysters from here, and we're doing caviar. We're doing this, we're doing that, and he has people purchasing through his website, and then he has drop-off points all over certain parts of Philadelphia he goes to. So he has a Fairmount section, he has the Rittenhouse section, he has the South Philly section. He goes there and he does pickups. So everything's paid for already in advance. He portion controls it. Bob, you come over. Bob, here's your thing. And you pick it up. So he just got a brick and mortar place where he's actually doing most of the preparation there because it got so big. I think he went from like the verge of bankruptcy because he couldn't sell fish to the part where he's selling so much fish now. He's overwhelmed because people, the majority of the people don't cook. But once you figure out the basics on how to saute, how to bake, temperature control, and you go home and there are so many instructional videos like yours on YouTube, or for you want to learn how to make Chinese pork belly, or you want to do, I saw an amazing one the other day he sent me, my friend Robert. This girl like flattened out this chicken and then she sauteed it in a skin down in a nonstick pan for like 30 minutes and then flipped it over for like 3 minutes. And it was the crispiest chicken I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing. So now you have all these people that are sitting home, Zooming and looking at stuff on YouTube and getting all these instructional things that are becoming cooks or better cooks,
Yeah.
And so now what we need to do as restaurateurs and suppliers is figure out a way to get these products to them.
Yeah.
So that they could do it at home. I mean, yeah, in the long run, are restaurants going to survive when COVID goes away? Absolutely. Restaurants will come back because not everybody wants to clean their stove every day after splattering grease all over it.
Exactly. Like, I think that people, I think some people might think, oh, well, if people learn how to cook, they're not going to want to come to my restaurant. But I think it's kind of the opposite, where it's about convenience, where you don't want to, just don't want to do it. You know how to do it, but you would rather, someone else do it for you. And then also, I think once you learn how to do it, you have a greater sense of appreciation for the people that do that every day,
Yeah, like when you go to a restaurant and you say, oh, they say tonight, oh, I have the special tonight is, Viking Village scallops in a beurre blanc sauce over, saffron rice. And they're giving you 5 scallops and they're charging you like $45. And you go to Viking Village and you buy the scallops for a pound for like $19. And there's like 20 of them. You're like, what? Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. What? Like, wait, I could be cooking scallops at home and saving that money. Like, I was at a restaurant like last night. Like I know what food costs. So when I go out, I'm a little jaded. Like, you're going to tell me that lobster fra diavolo is $46? Like, you're giving me a frozen lobster tail. You're giving me boxed pasta, and you're giving me canned tomatoes, and you're charging me $46. Stop yourself.
Yeah. But then also on the other side, when you see it, like my favorite is when I go to a restaurant and I can't figure out how they did what they did.
Yeah.
Like then I'm like, you take my money for that magic trick right there.
My biggest thing before the COVID was, all the new restaurants have this model, and I'm sure you knew from being in the Star restaurant, but you were more back of the house, right?
Yeah.
So when the servers come out and they're like, oh, hi, my name is Chad. I'll be your server tonight. Can I get you any drinks tonight? And you're like, yeah, I'll have, whatever, old fashioned. Comes back. So let me explain to you how our restaurants work. Have you ever been here before? Okay, so we serve family style, and we serve small plates. And chefs suggest that everybody get 2 and 3 plates so you can all share. And you look at them like, okay, you're charging me the same amount for half an amount of food. You're telling me to get 3 of them. So my appetizer bill is going to be as much as my normal check would have been.
Yeah.
So I look at them and I'm like, excuse me, Chad. My last name's Olivieri. I'm Italian. We ate family style every night. And my mother never encouraged me to order 3 or 4 plates at a time.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
I hate that business model.
Me too.
But it works.
But that's the one thing with because I was working at Barclay Prime when I
Hmm.
worked for Steven Star, and it was just more like it was upscale steakhouse, so it wasn't. We rarely did the family style thing because they were
Hmm.
overcharging you anyway.
Yeah, like really. I mean, I've been there a dozen times. Actually, I was going to go there last night, but we ended up someplace else. But did you ever have the $100 cheesesteak there? Did you ever taste that they make there?
So let me tell you a story.
All right, go
There
ahead.
was a customer that had ordered it, sent it back, asked for the steak to be like well done, and,
Uh-huh.
and so they had this piece of wagyu, and they made it well done, and then the guy sent it back and said, "Ew, I don't like this."
Oh my God. So for everybody listening, Barclay Prime is this it is an amazing steakhouse, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's an amazing steakhouse on Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. And they pay homage to the Philly cheesesteak by making this $100 cheesesteak that comes with a split of vouv, right? And it's like carefully made with some special cheese. And it is an experience if you're using somebody else's American Express card.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but that was the first time I had wagyu because obviously I just graduated culinary school.
Yeah, like what? Like I don't I'm in a steak business. I don't really eat wagyu. I mean, I've had it a couple times, but
Yeah, and it was, even though it was well done, it was like the quality of the steak. It was just like the best steak I ever had.
oh, it's crazy. Like you watch those guys on YouTube and the Japanese guys, and they're cutting it. It's a block of fat. It's like mostly white. It's like, oh, my mouth is watering right now. Actually,
I know. After this, I was like, I gotta get a cheesesteak. I think my favorite cheesesteak is provolone. I like the mushrooms and the peppers and onions on it. But
yeah.
sure.
I was a hardcore cheese whiz guy forever, and no punch against craft, but they changed the recipe. I don't care for cheese whiz anymore. I mean, it's just I'm more of a provolone person now, believe it or not.
Maybe your
I,
taste buds just changed because your body was like, "Don't put more of this in me."
yeah, it's like no more whiz. Is that enough?
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny.
I can't even imagine. I'm like, all right, so I'm 57. I'll be 57. I can't imagine how many cheesesteaks that I've had in my 57 years of being alive and 9 months of my mother's stomach
Oh, yeah.
before I was born. So I would probably say it's in the tens of thousands, probably.
I was gonna say like at least a million.
Oh
Like
my gosh, no, I don't know. That's a lot.
57. How many do you eat a year? Think of that.
When I was working, when I was actually on the line, I would probably eat two or three a day, and then go home,
Especially
eat dinner.
like a growing teenager, I feel like.
Yeah, like and then you're out drinking at night, and the place is open 12. You need to have something to cheese with, because it's just one of those natural things that counterbalanced. It canceled the alcohol in your body, so it was the best pre-hangover cure.
Pre-hangover.
Like it was like yeah, like it was like paying forward. Like when you go to Starbucks and you pay for somebody's coffee behind you, you eat a cheesesteak, while you're drunk. This way it cures the hangover ahead of time.
In the morning. Uh, I wish yeah, we just went to the diner.
Yeah, it's much cheaper than a blood transfusion.
Oh man. So back to the seafood thing. I was thinking about that too when it comes to like farming, like CSAs and stuff. But the thing
Mhm.
that I think would get even more people utilizing it is like I don't have time to go to a drop up off point to pick it up. So I'm like, why aren't these people using services like Postmates or DoorDash to bring that directly to the doorstep instead?
Well, I think it's an amazing idea. I think it's a great idea. I think, but when Postmates, DoorDash, and stuff like that, I think there could be an issue because seafood is much more temperamental than say milk or beef
Yeah,
or
yeah.
pork, or chicken. So if seafood stays in the danger zone a little too long, while the DoorDash guy is, doing whatever he's doing, or the Postmates dude's, shopping for razor blades for somebody else, if it's not packaged properly, I think that could pose a problem. But I think it is a great idea if there were a delivery service that was more in tune, or packaging, maybe. I guess packaging from the person who's selling.
Because I actually get all my meat for the month with Butcher Box, which was the guy who, it was like a startup, and it was like 2 young guys, but then the guy they hired to kind of do all their purchasing and stuff used to do all the purchasing for Costco or not Costco. So, famously, like BJ's, they have like very like low priced meat that's pretty good quality, but then in Butcher Box they go like a couple steps further with quality, where it's like everything has to be, organic, pasture raised, like grass fed, like they're very pure. But it comes in they invented like a cardboard cooler, like an insulated box. It's pretty cool. And so it's 100% recyclable. And then they just pack it with dry ice and everything's frozen. So they don't sell a lot of seafood. Sometimes they have scallops and salmon, but they never put things on there. Like if they can't get that quality salmon, then they just don't have it. They don't.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I respect that immensely.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. I'm kind of spoiled with the scallops because our summer place is half a mile from Viking Village on Long Beach Island, and it's literally, when you go to Cassidy Seafood right there, the boat, you're 3 feet from the boat and you're 1 foot from the counter where you're buying the seafood. It just came off of that boat. And my landscaper, Joe, his son's a scalloper. So when his son comes back from scalloping, he stops over my house with a 5-gallon Ziploc bag full of scallops. He's like, he literally sticks his hand in the bag and starts eating them like right out of the bag raw. They're just fresh. They just came in. You have to eat one. But just give me put them in the fridge. So for scallops, it's like, it's right there,
Awesome.
But yeah, I think the challenge would be to figure out a way to do that with seafood.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great idea because, seafood, like vegetables, it's mostly it's seasonal.
Yeah. But
so,
if people expect that, like, I feel like a lot of that is education, like you shouldn't be able to get like ripe tomatoes every part of the year. Like, people need to be educated on like where their food comes from.
Listen, I remember that my dad would go to the market, to the food produce center, and buy the onions down there for the shop. And in the spring, he would come home. Like, I remember the first time I ever ate a kiwi. Like, I didn't know what kiwi was when I was a kid. My father came home, look at these. He used to call them hairy grapes. Look at this. I'm like, what do you like? And persimmons. Like, you would only get that stuff certain times of the year. Like, watermelon was a summer thing. You never saw watermelon in the winter. Yeah. The stores didn't carry it. And like tomatoes, I mean, if they came in from California, they were okay.
And also the varieties too. Like, people don't realize how many different varieties there are of vegetables and stuff. And especially when it comes to onions, maybe, in the spring you have a spring onion, because it depends on how long you have to keep what the grow season is, how much sunlight you have, all that other shit. But if we keep having like these monocultures of food, you're not gonna get that. You're gonna get.
There's my wife again.
Hi guys. Bye.
So
yeah. So yeah. I mean, like, for instance, we have an amazing garden at our beach place. It's like our friend, our co-student Bruce Santino helped me get the garden together, and big, beautiful garden. I mean, my zucchini was amazing. Our cucumbers were like giant, and our eggplants came in late in the season, and our tomato harvest was horrible. But I mean,
It's
the
horrible.
herbs grew like horrible. Like tomatoes were actually now in November, I have beautiful, gigantic green tomatoes on the vine, and the season's over. Had some peppers and some bell peppers, which really didn't thrive, but the zucchini and cucumbers were like I had cucumber salad every night. It was
Nice.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, but then like people, I feel like people are very familiar with like the summer garden, you know,
Hmm.
and but then people kind of just give up and then go next year. And I think it would be cool to like get people growing more like winter hardy vegetables too, like cabbage and
Yeah.
potatoes and all that fun stuff. You
I'm
know,
gonna get some. We don't have a big freeze down there, so we're good. It gets cold, but since we're like right on the water, it doesn't get. It gets bitterly cold with the wind, but we don't get a hard freeze. So actually, I'm going to clean out the garden this week when I get down there if it's not raining too hard. I'm going to see if I can find some beautiful garlic and plant some garlic so I can get some garlic next year and figure out a way to tame my mint bush, which took over the entire garden. It was like mint's like strawberries. It's like before when I grew mint previously, I had it in a container. Now I know why.
yeah.
It's
I
like it would overtook everything. Like how many mojitos can I have?
well, I started growing peppermint because I love peppermint tea and I also love mojitos. But it's like strangling my pepper plants. Like I have
Yeah.
to, I already like I thought I ripped all of it out.
Does mint come back?
uh if you don't, yeah, pretty much. If you don't get
Oh,
the roots, like because it has like these crawlers that come out. So if
yeah.
you can get those, it'll come back.
Yeah. I do have two really nice rosemary bushes. One that Bruce got me, which was organic. Another one was just like a store bought one that are so hardy, and thyme and oregano. So the basil, we had a small like hurricane kind of thing going on down there. We had a bad storm, and at the beach, if you get one of those storms, it takes a lot of the salt out of in the air from the ocean because it's just pulling all the salt water out, and it destroyed most of our basil for the summer.
Mm.
Like it never really recovered because there was just so much salt that inundated the garden. Tomatoes that were there were sweeter because the saltier the soil, the sweeter the fruit. But when it's too salty, it just kills everything.
I didn't even think about that. We just had a tropical storm coming through last night and yesterday, and it definitely like it. The wind, like a lot of the leaves and stuff, they're just like ripped. They're like fringe because of the strong winds. But I mean, I am right by the ocean. I didn't even think about the salt content.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, everybody was telling me like a week later, oh, your hydrangeas are all dead because you didn't squirt them down. I'm like, oh, I didn't know I had to.
Yeah.
Well, look at your bed. It's like, okay, well, next time.
Next time. Okay. That's crazy. But so,
What can we talk about now?
what can we talk about now? So, should go to the bathroom again. So, um, so Bruce does all that homesteading. We were talking about that a little bit yesterday when.
Yeah, so our classmate, I don't think you remember Bruce. He only stayed for the associates. He didn't stay for the bachelors. So he started. He and his wife Patty have this beautiful organic farm out in Mickleton, New Jersey, and he's part of this big CSA. And he's actually growing some amazing mushrooms. And he started. Yeah, it's beyond my pay grade, but he's doing some amazing stuff out there. And it was great. Like when I did get some stuff from the CSA, he had some amazing honey, local honey, duck eggs, chicken eggs. Um, the vegetables were all beautiful. I mean, everything was just really really lovely. But it didn't work with my schedule because we
Yeah.
were kind of like sequestered somewhere else because of COVID.
See, that's why I'm like to the doorstep. Like it's gonna be a game changer if they can figure that out.
Yeah, like we were doing Instacart for groceries.
Yeah, I
You're
went
paying.
into Whole Foods yesterday, and I would say 90% of the people in the building were either Instacart or Amazon.
Yeah. See where we are at the beach. There's an Acme on the island, which is actually the nicest Acme I've ever seen, and then off the island is a ShopRite, which is nice as well. But our closest like organic kind of place is up in Brick, New Jersey, which is Trader Joe's. Or if you just go back towards Cherry Hills, is Whole Foods. So we find ourselves, or I find Nancy actually mostly going up to Brick to go to the Trader Joe's and then coming back, which is like a 45-mile trip round trip.
I used to think that 45 miles. Sorry, I gotta get some water. But I used to think that 45 miles was long, and then I moved to Florida.
Oh my God. So how long is it now? Is there? Well, you have Whole Foods down there.
Oh yeah. I mean, not long to the grocery store. I just meant like I remember like growing up, everything I could possibly want was probably like 20 minutes or less, like away from me, because
Yeah.
right there. So in Florida, it's just you need a car. Like
Oh yeah, you definitely need a car.
transportation doesn't exist pretty much. Like there's some buses and stuff, but there's no like I miss Philadelphia because the between the trolley and the subway, like you go anywhere you want. Like
Yeah, like one of the greatest things about Philadelphia, it's truly a great walking town. You can walk everywhere. You can walk to, just you're not what do they call them? Food deserts. There really isn't like a big food desert in Philly proper, in center city Philly
yeah.
proper. Where when you get to the outskirts, they're food deserts. But like in New Jersey, like when I was in Marlton, New Jersey, I was literally half a mile from Trader Joe's and a mile from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were some good butchers around too. There's great butchers around here. We have the Italian market, but that's not really organic produce. Some of the other local stores are starting to carry a lot more organic stuff, or that stuff that's labeled as organic because that's its name. Yeah, because the government lets you do that. Oh, it's organic. Yeah, okay.
Well, all organic means is that it's made from carbon. So we're all organic.
Yeah, we're all organic. My thoughts are organic because they're made from carbon.
Yep. That could be a new business model. Organic.
Yeah. Organic thoughts. Yeah.
But yeah, but I also noticed like New Jersey, pretty much like the 13 original colonies, they were settled before cars were the main transportation. So that's why everything is so good for walking, or you have trolleys and trains. When you come down in Florida, there were settlements here before World War II and everything, but in order to connect everything, they built roads. They didn't.
Yeah. There were a lot of cattle ranches before Florida really became populated.
Yeah. And
in the mid section.
And just like, different other farming things, like I think sugarcane, citrus, pineapple, like tropical fruits because they grow.
Yeah.
But
my favorite, key limes.
Key limes, yes, in the Keys.
Love them. Yeah.
I didn't realize, because when I would make key lime pie, we would use like the juice. We didn't have like fresh key limes. They're so tiny, and
they are.
Like
I did a local show here at Chef's Kitchen where I made my key lime pie, and I gave like a little tutorial on how to like fast cut key limes, and it's like you just whack off the bottom so you have a nice stable thing, and then you do it like if you were going to make like orange segments that you just peel down, and then I would actually put them through a juicer. Like once I would take all the skin off, I'd pop them through the juicer, and you would extract all the juice out of it, which was nice, faster than squeezing each one individually with a fork.
Oh yeah.
As long as you get all that rind off of there and pop them in a juicer, it's not. You're not getting all that crazy bitterness from the rind and the pith.
And that will Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll separate out the seeds too. So like,
Yeah, I mean, it's great because we have Wegmans up here that always has key limes. It's crazy. Like you can always find key limes at Wegmans in New Jersey.
but that's the thing. Like, you probably shouldn't be able to find that you know what I mean? Like, that's one of those things.
I mean, are key limes seasonal in Key West?
I'm not sure, honestly. But I do like there's a season for everything. So like citrus
Yeah.
isn't gonna be I think citrus is like a winter crop basically in
Mm-hmm.
Florida, if I remember my history correctly. Because in colonial times it used to be like a really like you were rich if you got like an orange for Christmas.
Wow.
So we've come a long way.
Come a long way.
So,
You worked a week. I'm going to pay you in an orange.
oh my god.
I do remember that was a big thing back in the day when people would go to Florida. They would come back with a bag of oranges. Oh, we went to Florida and we brought back a bag of oranges.
Florida oranges.
Yeah.
My mom always makes fun of me because she says apparently everyone else says Florida oranges where I'm from, but I say Florida oranges because I'm like,
Florida oranges. Yeah. Orange. Orange. Whatever.
I don't know. Jersey accent. She's from Jersey City, so that's like a really Jersey accent.
Yeah, that's really heavy accent. I don't have an accent.
A little bit.
All right.
How do you say water?
Water.
Nice.
WADDER.
Yeah, the water.
The water. That's a Philly thing.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But I always get to this point and I'm like, I have to get better at interviewing.
I think you're doing fine. So what are you cooking today?
I am making a bastardized version of the quesadilla called the Graceadilla because I'm a white girl. But growing up, I think my first introduction to quesadillas was probably Applebee's. Where I'm from in New Jersey, there's an Applebee's in Clifton, New Jersey, where they basically train everyone in Applebee's there because it's like the best Applebee's, I guess. I can't say I'm a fan of Applebee's other than that Applebee's. I think they just hold it to like a different standard. I mean, I haven't been there in a long time, but it was like one of the only places we could go growing up after 10 o'clock at night where like if you're underage, like you could go sit down because it's a restaurant and then they have half price apps. So like, that was like the cool place to go. But so I was like, how do I make this at home? I want to make a better version because they would put vegetables in their quesadilla and it would make it soggy. So then I wound up figuring out, I cooked a bunch of bacon, took it out. I marinated some chicken and some Jamaican, which I didn't even know was Jamaican seasoning. I would just go in the hot sauce aisle and like find things with a cool label and be like, I want that one.
Yeah, right.
So like jerk Jamaican chicken with some lime. And then I would cook that as like the chicken and then make the quesadilla, but fry it in the bacon fat. Like and then that became,
how could that be bad?
Yeah, that became the Graceadilla because I'm white.
So, every time I hear quesadilla, it makes me think of what was that show that with the llama and the kid from MTV? They eat the quesadilla. What a quesadilla! Whatever, I can't think of it right now. What the guy with the glasses? Pedro's running for president. Pedro for president.
Oh, Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
When his mother said, "You want a quesadilla?" Yeah, I remember my first introduction to a quesadilla was at that restaurant chain. I don't even know if it's still in existence. Chi-Chi's? No, not even ringing a bell, huh?
But there also might be a Chi-Chi's salsa. I think.
Yeah, they had the salsa, but they actually had brick and mortar restaurants.
Oh.
And it was like you went in there and it was like there was like cheese on everything. Everything was just dripping in cheese, and it was just like you were so bound up when you left the restaurant. But that was literally my first introduction to quesadillas, other than like going to a Fridays. Maybe Fridays had them back in the day, but they had great fajitas. Fridays, they had really good fajitas on Fridays.
Yeah, we didn't have Fridays, or we had. Because there's TGI Fridays, but then there was Fridays.
That's it. Yeah, well, the TGI Fridays it was.
Okay.
Did they shorten it down?
It wasn't Fridays. It was Friendlies.
Friendlies, yes. Wait, I think Friendlies just filed bankruptcy?
Maybe. I haven't seen one in a really long time. So.
Yeah, they're still up. They're still up this way. But I think I did hear that Friendlies was filing for Chapter 11. Not
But
7,
I
11.
feel like a lot of these people filing for bankruptcy, it's kind of like creative accounting, because even Zahav filed for bankruptcy and then got bought by like a different holding company with like a similar name, and it's like that's literally the same people. Like how
Clearly, yeah.
That legal, and then it's just like. I don't know. I just this is how the rich get richer, huh?
Instead of calling it on the table sur la table, they should call it underhand, because it was a little underhanded, right?
Yeah. So it's just, but I'm sure every company is doing something like that, even because when you go to the top or Starbucks, you kind of think, okay, they're usually like pretty socially responsible, but. Then they get to the point where it's like, oh, well, we got to do what we got to do to survive. So that kind of like, Yeah,
well, Starbucks closed, like, I think probably more than 400 units.
Yeah, they did. But then they were also, like, a couple of my friends were working for them, and you could tell they were, like, trying to just give people hours, Like, so that was good. But at the same
but like a place, like, for instance, like in New York City, where there's a Starbucks on every corner, literally right across the street from each other. And there's no one walking the streets in New York. I mean, how do you
stay open?
I mean, New York was hit pretty damn hard with, as most cities were. I'm sure a lot of places in Florida, but Florida, like you said, is like the Wild West down there. I mean, you guys down in Florida are drumming, dancing to a different drum beat down there. What's going on? What's going on?
I don't even know.
Is there no science down there? No science, no math?
There's alternative
reality.
Yeah, I think like where the portal opens for like the parallel universes, it's in Florida. The Bermuda Triangle, maybe.
So we have the Mason-Dixon line, which separates the north from the south.
Yeah.
And then there must be, like, on the Florida-Georgia line right there must be a different imaginary line which separates from Florida from the rest of reality, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, it's very strange too. It must be, because it's the one place you have to go north to go south, because then you have like the southern, like where I am, it kind of starts like the snowbird area. So like you have more like northern thought process, and then you go north and it's southern thought process.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a very backwards place to be.
But, I may make fun of Florida a little bit, but I do love Florida. There's a lot of things about Florida that I really do like. Like, I love, Nancy, my wife, and I love Miami. I love South Beach.
I mean, Miami is like, that's the thing too. Like, if you went to like Jacksonville and then you went to Miami, but nobody told you, like, if you had to just like guess where you were, you would think you were in two different countries. Like,
yeah, you would think maybe in Argentina or Cuba. Yeah. Well, maybe not Cuba. Yeah, somewhere else.
Yeah.
Been to Cuba. Miami doesn't look like Cuba, so I don't know why I said that.
I haven't been to Cuba. If you take an American, most likely they haven't been to Cuba. So.
Cuba was beautiful, but like, we were different parts of Cuba. Found the people to be beautiful, very friendly people, very welcoming. But like, by the time we were finished in Cuba, I was done with rice and beans and pork. I was done.
I'll never. with rice and beans and pork.
Now it was, and welcoming drinks. Like we went, it was just beautiful. And like just going through Havana was absolutely cool. But it's an amazing place. It's just, I wish it were more open for us to get to.
Oh yeah. Actually, when I was a kid though, like I didn't understand that. I thought Cuba was just close to everybody. I didn't realize like it just close to America.
Yeah, it's just like right off the coast. It's like you could swim there.
Yeah, but I didn't realize like British people could go there, or like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't realize it was just us. That was the problem.
Yeah, the rest of the democratic places around the world can go there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't. You know, something about a missile crisis or something like that.
Something like that.
Or takeover. I mean, my Uncle Pat used to go to Cuba back in the day before Castro came in. I mean, that's where people went and played. I mean, that's where casinos were, and people went to Cuba. Like they just went to, like as if they went to Florida. Just go to Cuba. Let's go to Cuba for the weekend.
Pretty much the same thing. But yeah, I like Florida. Florida, I have a love-hate relationship with, because I don't like some parts of the culture where it's very like fake news, fake ass, fake tits, fake face, like I can't.
Yes.
I'm just like, no, like stop. But
yeah,
you know, then the more because also this time of like COVID and everything is really the longest I've been here, because I was always in and out because of my job. I was only here like a week out of the month, really. So, and even when I was here, like it didn't make sense for me to have a car being a flight attendant. So my boyfriend would just drop me off. But when I was home, it was hard to like go anywhere because he'd have the car at work. So like now it's the time where I'm kind of getting to know Florida a little bit better. But for, you know, that whole time I was flying, the only parts I would see were like the super fake parts, pretty much, you know. So I would go back home.
I get it. No, I get it. No, it's Nancy loves Florida. She wants us to get a place eventually and be down there.
I think it's a great place if you have more than one place.
Yeah.
Because I think the people who are in the government, they subscribe to these alternative facts, and climate change is real. So I would definitely not want my primary place
to be on South Beach.
Yeah, to be underwater in 5 years.
Yeah, you want to be maybe like on the 5th floor at least.
Yeah. Exactly. So
if you buy if you're inland, you know, you're right at the middle of Alligator Alley, you could be beachfront property eventually.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking is like a business plan. I was like, one night I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was up till like 3 a.m. I was like, I'm gonna figure out exactly where this coastline is predicted to go.
Yeah.
Buy a piece of land right there.
That's it. It's like what did in one of the Superman movies, when one of the villains said, what do you want? And he's like, well, we're going to blow up California and it's going to fall into the ocean. So I want Arizona. So I have beachfront property.
Arizona. My brother just moved to Nevada. He was going to move to Arizona, but that's another thing I think about when I think of global warming is like, I want to make sure I go somewhere with like, that's not a desert, you know?
Well, did he move to Las Vegas? Did he move to Clark County?
He moved to Henderson, Nevada.
Henderson, Nevada. Mm-hmm.
I don't really know geography. As you could, from my last podcast, the guy AJ was trying to explain to me where Newfoundland was in regards to like the other places, and I was like, man, I'm American.
Yeah.
Because I've never been to Canada, never been to, never been that far north. On this side, obviously, like Scandinavia is probably in the same latitude, but I was just like, I don't know anything about up there, you know.
I'll tell you what, when COVID does, Nancy and I, does it last 2 years ago, went to Montreal. My niece was getting married in Vermont. So she and I went up to Montreal for a couple of days and then drove back down to Vermont. And let me tell you something. You being a foodie, you need to go to Montreal. The
Yeah.
food in Montreal, once COVID's over, you need to go to Montreal. The food is amazing.
Well,
I
now
mean,
I really want to go to Canada.
the restaurant scene in Montreal is beyond. It's crazy good. Like we were there for like three or 4 days, and every meal we had was better than the meal before. It was insane. Like we actually went to this one place. It was formerly a women's prison. So we went down in this dungeon in this basement, and we had some of the most amazing Italian food. We went to the kitchen. We were talking to the women in the kitchen, taking pictures, all run by women. Women's restaurant in a former women's prison. It was just crazy. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was insane.
Were any of the employees former prisoners?
No, it was a prison a long time ago. There was another place up there that we went to called Schwartz's Deli, and it's like a Pat Steaks or like a Carnegie Deli or Cat's Deli, but it's been here for years, and they do their pastrami, and they serve it, believe it or not, with yellow ballpark like French's mustard. And you would say to yourself, that like pastrami with yellow mustard, it's like a hot dog mustard. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
couldn't get it into my mouth fast enough.
Huh. I mean, I do love. That's probably one of my favorite like Jewish deli sandwiches is a pastrami on rye with Swiss and mustard. Yeah, that's really good.
Can't go wrong with that.
Like especially hot, like a hot. Like,
Hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what do you have down here? You have two J's.
Yeah, two J's. Which is kind of chainy. I really miss from up north the amount of like mom and pops there are.
Yeah.
There's a lot more. It's very like chain and franchises down here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not the same. It's very, I don't know how to, it's like almost too clean.
Yeah. It's too sanitary. It's not yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you can find a Chinese place that fits the bill. It's not so clean.
That's one of
Really?
the hardest things I've had like finding is a good Chinese place. Like, I don't know what it is. And also,
Really?
yeah, I'm like, that was a surprising thing. Like, I was like, why?
There used to be a really good a deli up in Miami called Rascals.
Rascals.
Yeah, but it's not there anymore. It was like forever there, and you can literally go in there and see somebody you know. You see somebody from up north because everybody went there. It's like that one little section right there.
Oh man,
but that's not there anymore. Hey, Nance. Oh, she's probably outside.
But yeah, Chinese food is really hard. I found some pretty good Vietnamese places.
Yeah.
Even though there's not like a huge Vietnamese population, but I think it's just such a fashionable food now that people are seeking it out type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Chinese has been hard. But also, I mean, New York Chinese food, so.
Yeah, how about Korean? You see Korean down there?
No. Nothing that, and especially like when I was traveling, I got spoiled because I was like going to Koreatown in LA like once a month. Like,
yeah, it's like once you do that, it's kind of,
Yeah, but
when it's when you set the bar so high by when you have it really good the first time.
Well, also, Jung, who was one of our classmates.
Yeah, I remember Jung.
Yeah, she's from Korea. So she told me everything I know about Korean food. So then I go, if I go to a place, I'm like kind of looking at it through her lens, and it's like,
yeah. When we were in school, like in West Philly, we're like, I know we all used to go different places for lunch. Yeah. Where did you and her used to go?
Like, so we used to go. We kind of had like a deal with so G. It was usually me, Jung, and G, and we knew this guy around the corner from Thailand that had his own restaurant, and they had the most amazing lunch deal where it was like $10 for like a huge appetite, a huge entree, a soup, and a dessert and a
Huh?
drink. So we used to go there, get that. I used to get chicken basil all the time, which was cool because then when I went to back to Thailand, I got to hang out with G when I was flying and get like the real version of that, which was funny because I went and got the real version of that without him. But then he was like, "I'm gonna take you to the best restaurant in Bangkok." And I was like, "All right, this is gonna be awesome," and it was
Huh.
a Mexican restaurant.
Really? Was it good?
Oh, it was great, but they were just they don't have a lot of them over there, and it
And
was
that was the best one.
it was the hot, the hot place.
So, what's John up to? Is she still in the culinary world or?
She's back in South Korea, so she has
Uh-huh.
a beautiful baby boy, and
Aw.
I think she's working for her dad's for the family business. It's actually interesting. The family business is safes, like
Mm-hmm.
they build like vaults for like casinos and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she still loves food and stuff. She's always sending me pictures of her lunch, but it's it's different, but at the same time I think it helps her out a lot because one of her big jobs is kind of like talking to the clients and like kind of whining and dining them a little bit. So I think that knowledge comes in handy a lot.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, whenever you speak to her, tell her hi, and G too.
I will.
If you ever talk to this too.
Yeah, I told her I was interviewing you, and she was like, "That's awesome!"
Yeah.
She got very
She's
excited.
always- you guys were always so sweet. Seriously, you guys were so just adorable. Seriously, you are.
Thank you.
You're
You-
welcome. Oh, thanks. I wasn't fishing for a compliment, but thank you.
You're always you're like dad, like the dad of the group,
Yeah, Dad. Yeah,
the wise man.
yeah, the wise man. Yeah, I tell you, I did have a lot of fun in school. I was in touch with Chef Bellini for a while,
Yeah.
and Chef
Latona?
what's his name, Latona,
Yeah.
and I was actually going to invest in one of their business ventures,
The chicken
but
place?
the chicken place.
Did anything happen with that? They were on Shark Tank? No.
They were on Shark Tank, and I think, although the product I think was great, I think the preparation and the price point for where they were going with it might have been a little too high, and I don't think that they were when they were on a restaurant startup, it was called stuff like that.
Oh, something like that.
I don't think they had a grasp of the front of the house enough and cost control and all that stuff. And I think that was kind of their downfall because the product they made was absolutely amazing. Their chicken was stellar, but I just think that they didn't have, in the top, they didn't have a grasp of the, not that they didn't have a grasp. That I think they weren't. I'm trying to be nice about this as possible. They didn't have a grasp of the front of the house and the business aspect of the business. They were more on the cooking side rather than.
When it came to like how like that education piece of it was like, I think I learned a lot of front of the house stuff because I did the like student leadership program because I was I feel like I probably could have had a little more fun in college, but I was so stressed out because I knew how much money it was and I had to take out all loans and the interest and stuff. I was like, I can't risk getting a B. Like I have to get the top of the top because I have to get my money's worth, which turned out to be a load of crap. But
I mean, a lot of the kids, like a lot of the our classmates, like you remember Chris Borger?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was in the restaurant industry for a while. He was working for Vetri, and I don't think he's really involved much anymore. And remember Bernard?
Yeah,
Cephas, he's doing something completely other than. I mean, you figure he went through the entire bachelor program and had $80,000 in student tuition.
Yeah.
and doing something completely different. I mean, to leave culinary school, being the age that the average person was there, with that much being that much in the hole already, and then working in an industry where, if you're a female, of course the pay scale is going to be a little bit different. You're treated differently because it's a harsh, and it is realistically, it's a harsh environment. It's a harsh environment for men. It's harsh for women as well.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
it's also, I found like then even more so being in pastry, um, you weren't really like pastry has a lot more science in it. Not even more science, but like there's a smaller margin of error you can make.
Right.
And I don't feel like I was paid as a pastry cook even. You're paid the same as a line cook, but you had to have more education.
Yeah, you're more specialized.
Exactly. So you get in debt, and pastry is one of those things where like nowadays you kind of have to go to school for it. Like
Yeah.
there's no really good like apprenticeship programs. Like you'd be very, very lucky if you found like a very qualified a pastry chef that was qualified, but also had the skill of being able to teach you and the time to teach that you would learn all the science. Like you'd learn why you're doing something, not just, hey, do this. So like to come out, I think I was like 120 in debt because I fell in that category where my family wasn't poor enough to get like a lot of like fast food loans.
Mm-hmm.
So all my loans were pretty much like private loans. So the interest was like way higher.
Yeah.
So it's like 120 in debt. And
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, I was going to bed like.
So now you as a pastry chef, I need to ask you this question. So I'm going to turn it around and interview you a little bit.
Okay.
So I know a lot of places that are bakeries get a lot of pre-made formulas for their cakes, right? So it's basically in a bag. Everything's pre-mixed. Yeah. So I was talking to a friend of mine who remained nameless. So he was working in an industry and decided not to stop doing it because he had too much skill for what they were doing. It was basically like, he went to schooling for pastry and he was an amazing pastry chef. And it's like going to work at, not to make fun of McDonald's, like going to work at McDonald's where everything's like pre-made already. Yeah. And like, you're not using your skill.
Yeah.
And, for people with bigger factory pastry shops, it's not artisan. It gets so diluted. And he's like, what did I waste my time for? I could just be adding water to the mix.
Exactly. And it's you would be surprised at which places do that, because you can decorate a pastry with like that kind of like that fine French, like give it that look, but it's from the box. And most people aren't educated enough that when they eat it, they can tell the difference. So I think that, that was also one of my problems. And even in like the icing and stuff, like, and with the like advent of like all these cooking, like cake shows and stuff.
That's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's all bullshit, but people have lost, especially when it comes to cake, people have lost like the point of cake. Like the point is that it should taste good. Like it shouldn't just like look pretty, Yeah,
I think everybody cuts corners. I think that's one of the problems. Like I go to this restaurant, I frequent this one restaurant, and I never get dessert there because the desserts always fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I just think that, like, for a course that a restaurant makes almost the most money on, which is dessert, because they want you to get apps and desserts, because they bang you for the coffee, they bang you for the pieces of cake, whatever. You should be just as focused on that as you are your main meal. And I just think most restaurants just fall by the wayside on that.
And also, I think a lot of people, when it comes to being a pastry chef, the way explain it to people too is that it's a lot harder to get a job because every restaurant needs a chef, but they don't need a pastry chef because you
Right.
can just order your pastries from Balthazar's and put them on a plate with some chocolate sauce and pretend that you made it there.
Yeah.
As
And
long as
it's like I love when people come out with their oh, we have the best creme brulee ever, and it's like, what? Wow,
yeah,
seriously?
world famous cheesecake from
Yeah, yeah, world famous cheesecake from the box from Cisco.
yeah.
I'll tell you one thing though, U.S. Foods does make a great chocolate cake. Their frozen chocolate product. I had it once before; it was pretty good. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if when you do like there's a big company in Brooklyn that makes cheesecakes. Okay, and they have a factory over here in New Jersey, in Burlington, New Jersey,
You talking about Junior?
and yeah, Juniors.
Yeah.
And there's something, when you make it, I have a recipe for a cheesecake that I've been making forever. And whenever I make the cheesecake, it's a pecan, toasted pecan with, it's a 10-inch spring form, toasted pecans, and it's graham cracker. It's 48 ounces of cream cheese. It's a big cake. And there's like 2 cups of sugar in it, 5 eggs, whatever. But it's not the ingredients, it's the preparation that makes the cheesecake so standalone from any other product that's out there. And it's like people don't take that time anymore. It's like turn and burn. It's like Food Factory. And like whatever happened to that special cake that you would go and get, or like the cake that your grandmom used to make, when she would make that lemon chiffon cake. It's like, oh, it's a lemon chiffon cake, but it's the best lemon chiffon cake that you've ever eaten. And it's because they took their time with it. And it wasn't because they just, added water to a bag,
Yeah, and I also think because so many of the pastries are this like add water or shipped out wholesale type thing, we're losing like the knowledge base of like all the different variations and kinds of desserts that we had in America. Like because if you look at a menu, it's like molten chocolate cake. It's maybe something with like fruit in it, and then
Right.
there's only like maybe a seasonal one, and like another like local favorite, like a cookie or a brownie or something.
Right.
Like, there's a really cool place in LA. It's in like I think it's called the Grand Central Market. I forgot like the specific name of the place, but they bring back old Hollywood's like famous like cakes that
It
we
was
don't
just like the
know.
red velvet cake. They're like,
That just
that's an old,
names of cakes that like I didn't even know about these cakes. Like
really?
there was one that was like grapefruit based. Like it was just such a
Wow.
and that like certain celebrities like that was their favorite cake, and we just like lost the knowledge for it. It's in some like 1950s cookbook that is on your grandma's shelf that you've never opened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll
So
tell you, we Nancy and I we traveled to Budapest and Croatia last summer, not this summer, last summer. And our friend Esther is from Budapest. She's been here for like 20 years. So we went to see her family, and she took us to these like amazing pastry shops that like I just sat down and we just like ordered everything that was in the case, and
yeah.
the coffee and the pastries. It's like what? Like croissants, like just like in France, and like buttery, delicious, where like everything here is like out of that tube that explodes when you twist it. It's like that's
Yeah.
not a croissant. Like it's and I was like, oh my God, I would come back here just for pastries.
Oh yeah. And I'm like because in the world of pastry, it's just so immense. Like you're never gonna learn everything in culinary school for anything, with food.
No.
So after one of the reasons why I decided to leave working in the kitchen was because, my main dream was to have my own place. And I was like, I'm never gonna get my own place getting paid $13 an hour,
Right.
working as a pastry cook or pastry chef or whatever, having to pay off my student loans and then save up money to open my own business. Like that's unless there's some sort of angel investor, like it's not gonna happen. So
Right.
I was like, how do I live like Anthony Bourdain without a TV show? I was like, oh, become an international flight attendant. And I think that was the best thing I ever did because I got to go to all these different countries and experience their food the way they do it. You know, it wasn't just like
Yeah,
watching.
you're not living vicariously through Netflix.
Exactly.
I mean, I love watching Who's Feeding Phil. Do you ever watch that series with Phil Rosenthal?
No, he annoys me.
He-
I
his-
haven't given him a great chance, but I saw the
give
trailer.
him a chance.
Give him a
It's
chance.
really,
He's a
yeah.
nice
Do you
guy.
watch the other one with the guy that the chef, John? He's with that's a great series. It's called Chef.
Yeah, John Farrell.
Yeah, that's a great series
Because that
too.
movie was a great movie.
Great movie, and he travels around with the guy who taught him and schooled him.
Yeah, and that's the guy from the Kogi.
Yeah, Kogi. Uh-huh.
Korean barbecue.
Yeah, that's a great series to watch.
Yeah, that's a great series.
Yeah.
They just came out with a new season, and using that's what I would do. I would watch there's one, maybe it is Chef or it's Mind of a Chef because David Chang is in it. And,
Yeah.
No, it was Ugly Delicious. That's what.
Ugly Delicious is a great one too.
So the first, it's the pizza episode, but I remember I went to Copenhagen and I went to Beast, and I went there at first because I would go I would just go on down rabbit holes on the internet to try to find okay, I'm going to these places this month. Where am I going to go eat? And so I found this place, and then the next month Ugly Delicious came out and they were on it. And I gotta say, I haven't had that guy in San Francisco's pizza, but this was the best pizza I've ever had in my life. It was, and not all their pizzas were the best pizza I ever had in my life, but specifically their plain slice that they had their homemade stracciatella cheese on top. Oh my God. They made everything from scratch. That and they even they grew it. It was very Noma, because Noma is from Copenhagen. So it's very that mindset where it's we're going to do everything as local and sustainable as possible. And it was fucking amazing. Oh my God. I was
now I want to go to Copenhagen.
Copenhagen is probably my favorite city to go to. It's just it's just you want to go in the summer though, definitely. It's very cool. It's cold in the winter. There's only 3 or 4 hours of daylight. But in the summer,
that could be fun.
But in the summer, there's one day, midsummer, where it's light out for 24 hours. That's the day to go if you're gonna go.
Oh, wait a second. I gotta see something.
Once we're allowed back in there, that would be the ideal.
I'm sorry. I'm doing a collaboration with Rob Wasserman. You know Rob from Rouge Restaurant on Rittenhouse Square.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
And he has snap kitchens and stuff. He has a bunch of them all over the place. We did a collaboration with him. I was just looking at my cell phone for a second. Snap Kitchen is there was one up on Penn State. It's basically like almost cafeteria style. So he did a Pat Steaks pizza.
Is it a snap? Is it called Snap Kitchen, or is this the type of kitchen?
No, it's called Snap Kitchen.
Okay, so it's called Snap Kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's partners in that, and so we did a collaboration with he did a Pat Steaks pizza, two different ones, and then he donated some of the money towards my foundation, or Nancy and our foundation.
What is your foundation?
Oh, so I can talk about that too. So our foundation is called Spread the Whiz, kind of like a play, spread the whiz, spread the fortune, spread the gold. So we started a foundation to our original mission statement was that we were going into Philadelphia schools, and we were teaching culinary literacy or culinary education to young kids in the school so that they could take it home and teach their parents how to eat better. So, so our thing was, do we want to sell 1 million cheesesteaks? Do we want everybody to eat cheesesteaks? Yeah. Are they the best thing for you? No. So let's find out what you have in your pantry. Let's find out how you can incorporate some of the stuff in your pantry to make something that's healthier than just going to a fast food restaurant and picking up a Happy Meal, or buying better, spending the money on broccoli, and how you can extend broccoli. So we were doing, some of the schools that we went into had gardens that we actually redid the gardens and fixed the raised gardens, did some irrigation. We planted some tomato plants and some basil and peppers. And we were saying to the kids, okay, you could do this in your backyard in a bucket. You could plant a tomato plant, and here's a tomato. And then I bring in fresh mozzarella cheese and basil from the garden, the tomato, olive oil, balsamic vinegar. You have a caprese salad. You could do that. And then we're also working with the Philadelphia Free Library, which has an amazing kitchen there. It's the only one in the country like that. So Marc Vetri actually uses it too he has a similar foundation that we partnered with a little bit. His is called the Vetri Community Partnership. So we were going into the kitchen and I was teaching vegan recipes to the kids, and how to make vegan chili, and using all these ingredients, fresh ingredients, canned ingredients, and teaching them how to do it, and teaching them knife skills. So we did that for a while, but we're kind of like, we slowed down with our foundation right now at this point. But because of COVID, and we can't do that interaction anymore like we did before. And we were getting a little bit of pushback from the Philadelphia school system, because we had the kids like playing in the dirt in the garden, and they're like, oh no, they can't touch the dirt. What if somebody gets sick? My wife's out there telling me to shut up. So anyway, that's what we're doing. So anyway, that was my whole thing. So spreadthewiz.org if you want to look at the pictures.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll send you the link.
Okay. That's interesting, because dirt actually helps build immune systems.
It does, yeah, playing in the dirt, but
But anyway.
But I'm going to have to jump off of this because I have another Zoom I have to do.
Oh wow. Okay.
In like 3 minutes.
Okay. All right. Well,
7 minutes. I'm sorry. I thought that was an 8. It's a 3.
Okay. It's still a short amount of time, but I appreciate you cutting it.
Oh, did you need me longer?
No. I mean, that's what I mean, I could. I'm not against it.
I can always come back as a repeat guest. Have me back.
Definitely. Especially because I want to know, you'd have your ear to the ground in Philly. So I want to know, like, how's it going with COVID? How's it, like, what are the new things going on? I want to.
Give me a little bit of time to figure this out, because, with this new wave of COVID cases in Philadelphia alone, I'm sure things are changing. I think that they're going to start cutting back on restaurant capacity soon.
Oh, wow.
So I know there's a lot of people, the 71 million people are saying, oh, Biden's going to close everything. We're going to go bankrupt. And the 74 million people are saying, no, we just needed the leadership to wear masks in the beginning and we wouldn't be at this point.
Yeah. And we need the stimulus shit done. That's on both parties. Like, that's
on both parties. Like, listen, seriously, if you win, you lose. Hillary complained, but she went away. She lost. Yeah. She took her licks. Al Gore lost. He went away. He did his thing. Just go away.
Yeah.
You lost.
It's
away. Not like he lost by 3 votes in one state. He lost by a bunch of votes in a bunch of states.
I believe it's 5 million. So, and Hillary.
Well, yeah, the popular vote. But I'm saying, you lost. Go away. Like, how much more money do you? Like, how many more times you want to go golfing? He golfed 400 times already.
Or I think also
on our tax dollar.
Yeah, on our tax dollar. But I think once he's out, he's probably in a lot of legal trouble that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on. Definitely.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Repeat guest, and also, like, anyone you want to have in the links, like, let's try to help out Philadelphia as much as All right.
Perfect. So I could be your Philadelphia correspondent. I can give you like updates every once in a while.
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Grace. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck to you. And cook something good. Cook your quesadillas tonight. Give my regards. Take care, sweetie.